access to what I need. And because again, woman is great, but she's the exception and she's not the rule. And so, you know, they may look at her and say she's great, but yeah, we already have our black lesbian in Hollywood. We don't need any more, you know? And so that's something that I struggle with, and I feel bad admitting it, but I shadow a lot of white people in this business. Yeah. They are, not to say that I don't have black mentors or mentors of color, I have everybody that I talk to, but they are the ones with the access, so I shadow them and I take everything that I learned from them and I use it and it works.
Right.
Again, I may just be the exception and not the rule, but through networking, through social media, I've been in contact with Brie Larson, who I've been talking to for the last year. Tessa Thompson DMs me sometimes, and because they want to know. Apparently, I'm like one of the go-to black folks to go to, you know, about stuff like this. So they reach out to me to know, and I'm like, I just sit there and bam, we've made a connection just because I decided today I'm going to educate you. And now I have this ally. That's how I got involved with Time's Up, and that's how a whole bunch of other things are now coming full circle for me creatively, because I decided to come out of my comfort zone and make the connections and take, it's a risk, right? So if you're an introvert and, you know, the worst people can say is no. The worst they can do is ignore you. And that's okay, because there will be somebody who will eventually listen. And that's something that I want to get across. It's been like 5 years and I'm still moving, but a lot is happening because I chose to come out of my comfort zone and deal with rejection and embarrassment, which is something I'm still dealing with, but I handle it differently. And sometimes I redirect it in other places so that it's easier to move on. I'm really sorry I'm talking a lot. If you
use the term code switching, and I'm wondering if everyone understands. I mean, we know, but is there anyone, and it's okay, does anyone not know what that is?
Code switching is, I guess the best example is if a phone interview happens, I put on my white voice. And, because Valerie Complex is in my real name, but my name sounds like, I could be whatever depending on how I am on the phone. And then when I get in the streets in Harlem, I start putting on my accent and I start using all kinds of MFs and FU and all kinds of stuff like that, because I'm in an environment I feel comfortable in, so I can be me. And when I'm in another environment, I change my personality to fit the environment that I'm in. That's what code switching is, which I'm sure we all have to do some form of one way or another.
I don't know about that.
Well, we don't all. I mean,
I think there are people that don't have to, and you don't even realize it, right. But it's happening to us all the time. It's kind of like masculine and center women going into the women's bathroom. It's just people who don't have to think about that, and it's something I think about every single time. Every single time, especially as a black masculine and center woman. But I get what you're saying, but I also realize that people don't even think about code switching because they're just being, that's life. That's who they are.
That's a really good point.
Yeah. No, thank you for bringing it up. Oh, sorry. I gotta do better with this mic situation.
Yeah. Maybe just put the other mic like close to your face like this. It works
like a rapper.
See? It works. You just gotta put it to your mouth, lesbians. Don't be shy. I'm not gonna turn this into a comedy show. Not gonna do it. Gonna ask the next question. So I remember I was a gay little girl. Is anybody else gay little girls you knew when you were a child? Okay. Dykes on the trike. Y'all knew it. I knew something was different, but I just remember watching TV and reading books and never seeing any characters that I could really relate to as far as being queer, or a lot of times just people of color in general. So it made me feel like I didn't matter. So you all are working diligently to change that for the next generation. What impact do you think your work in highlighting queer people of color has had on others? not just the kids, but other people who may be struggling with their own sexuality or coming out, and even their families. What impact do you think your work will have on the next generation and even people now who are struggling with their sexuality?
Okay, so I think the fact just creating our own content and just showing that we actually exist. Because when I was little, I would have been like, "You lying? There are no queer black people. That's white people stuff. So we don't do that." Because literally, I was told that when I was younger. I ain't gonna call certain family members, but I'm just saying they're like, "We didn't get time for that. White people can be gay, you can't." So I just like just by being ourselves and just putting content out there, I think that will help not just the next generation coming up, but also just like the people in the queer community. Like maybe there's a person down in like Oklahoma, out somewhere, I don't know what state it's called, where there's just a whole lot of white people and they've never seen a black person, because apparently that happens. I've had a few tweets about that where people were like, "I've never met any black people." Personally, I'm like, how? Oregon. Portland, okay, so like I just think like, but just putting the content out there, just having it out there and showing that we actually exist does help younger generations as well as of the queer community as a whole, just being there. Like Black Lightning is gonna be huge. Like it's on the CW. I can point my little 11-year-old cousin and be like, "Look, her, familiar." Yeah, like it's so amazing just to have content like that out there. So yeah, I think just being ourselves, being out there, putting things out there helps.
I think I want to speak to the CW thing really quick. I find it really interesting the way that their shows are written and the way that they just kind of organically find a way to put queer people in a show and not make it a big deal. Like, say, The Flash. They very organically put people in there. They don't make their sexuality the issue. They can actually just be a police chief and just be that. And then, oh, by the way, there's this other thing. So the CW is kind of one of those ones to watch as far as they're doing it. So we kind of actually need to be saying, "Hey, thank you," because it can easily be done. It's like people with lives, and like we're just in the community like everybody else.
Yeah. So you're talking about our individual companies, right? Oof, it's rough. So I know. So with Tag, when I started it, obviously I wanted to tell all of our stories. But I wanted to be very intentional about telling the stories of people of color, as well as our trans brothers and sisters as well. And what I realized as I was kind of moving through this journey, I think the way that I can make an impact was to make sure that I leave some sort of legacy. And what I mean by that is not like on a Beyonce level legacy, but like if something were to happen to Tag today and we couldn't move forward, I know that any young person could pick us up or go to our website or listen to our podcast, and it doesn't even matter what issue you're picking up. You're going to see a story in there that relates to you as a queer person of color. So for me, that's super important to leave our stories for somebody to pick up, because you never know who's reading it. And that's the best. What's amazing is the people that do come up to me and say that. And sometimes you need that reminder, because sometimes, like as a Black queer woman, you're just like, you get tired. It's exhausting. It was somebody, I think it was on Drunk Queer History. What's her name that she does a podcast? Thank you, Crystal, and I love Drunk. Did I say Drunk Queer History? I remember at the end, she was just like, "God, Black people just have it so rough. We just have it so," but it's so true. So for me, it's leaving that legacy to make sure that anybody can pick us up and be inspired. You talked about Women in Brewster Place. God, how long ago was that? But you remember it, and it made an impact on you, and I think that's really important.
Wu-Tang. Yeah, because I heard like this, and I'm like, oh, okay. I'm feeling myself Wu-Tang. I think what I do is I try to address all the, I think what I try to do is I try to address all of the, I try to address all the different intersections that I exist at. I write from my experience. I am a Black, dark-skinned woman, so I write about that. I write about race. I write about gender. I write about sexuality. I write about the military. I write about dealing with mental illness. So I try to write something that'll educate people across race, gender, and sexuality, because I got something for everybody. And so I try to address that in my work. But being a journalist was never the end goal for me. I am a screenplay writer, and that is what I am working on now. But I want to set up the future so that when I'm walking down a red carpet, I get to see all of this diversity, and I can, go up and say, wow. And I can think to myself, wow, I helped. At least I tried to help, or I made my contribution in trying to make this happen, and it's come to fruition, and now I'm happy. So that's my thing. And you can follow me on Twitter at Valerie Complex, all one word, and Instagram, Valerie_Complex. I would love to talk to you guys after or anytime on Twitter, because social media is where I do my thing. Twitter is popping. So, yeah. So, thank you.
So, centered in the purpose of being positively impactful, what can we do to help? How can audiences and supporters assist in ensuring that accurate portrayals of queer people of color are adequately and authentically represented in media?
Hire people.
Hire people. Reach out to these companies. Reach out to the people that are creating content, and let them know how they're doing. Because we're in an age where you never know when the text or the tweet or the whatever message that you send is actually going to reach someone and make a difference. Case in point would be the Rose McGowan situation, where she was at the bookstore at Barnes & Noble in New York. And Ashley Marie Preston is a very, very incredible trans woman activist, and she reached out to her on Twitter, and they had this long Twitter conversation that ended up culminating in Rose doing her first interview after that on Ashley Marie Preston's podcast. So Reverie, in turn, ended up with the first video interview that Rose McGowan did after the Barnes & Noble situation, where she sits down with a Black trans woman and has an authentic conversation about that space and about activism, about women and the spectrum of what women are, and that is a direct example of how a conversation on social media or reaching out to people on social media actually does something. And not even in a call out kind of way necessarily, but we have to start talking to each other.
You have your extremes, right? You have what happened with the 100 and the producers that they ran off Twitter and all social media, and then you have examples with it's not a great example, but what happened with Jessica Jones, the discourse that was going on online about their treatment about people of color and women of color specifically actually reached the showrunners, and they acknowledged that there was a problem. I don't think they're gonna have to do anything about it, but I think the acknowledgement is the first step. And they got all of their information because people on social media started to call the show out. So there's power in how we use social media. The thing is how do we navigate it to where our message is heard and it's not dismissed. The offense versus the defense, as mentioned in the last panel, is when you pick your battle, you gotta pick your position too, right? You're gonna come from the defense, you're gonna come from the offense. For me, it just depends on who's talking. If Lena Dunham's talking, I can't guarantee, but I'm gonna be nice, right? But if it's somebody that wants to genuinely learn, like I just had a discussion recently with this white male critic about Black Panther, and he was like, oh, I appreciate you reaching out to me. I have a lot of respect for your work. See, I didn't know that. But when we sat down and had a conversation, the feels started to come out. I was like, oh, I like your work too. But so I just think we have to learn, like, again, social media is a powerful tool and information travels like lightning speed. So we just gotta figure out, how to navigate that world.
So far, for supporting, we have definitely used the power of your social media, use your voice for that, be paying attention to what the issues are. And also, so Tag Nation, you can buy a subscription to that, right?
Yeah, so that would be great. And I feel like I've said this in every freaking panel, but I can't say it enough. Again, you will be surprised the way that you can support queer Black women in their businesses. And for us, yes, of course, we'd love for you to, financially support us. But like us on Facebook, like us on Twitter,
share some posts,
engage with us, make some comments, share some posts, like us on iTunes for our podcast, because then I can go back and say, hey, advertisers, thanks to ClexaCon, these 4,000 women signed up for us, and now I'm going to charge you a heck of a lot more because our reach is bigger. And all you did was press a button. That's how you care, that's how you give a shit.
I actually have a YouTube channel. Where you can watch me review films, and it's a group of us who are people of color who review films, because that's something that is completely missing from that sort of niche. People who review films online on social media is mostly white men. Like, I have like a film history, and I go back for film all the time. So it's called the Cinema Complexion. Like, subscribe, give us suggestions. Thank you.
What you got, Rain? Last little plug.
Latinx Geeks, we have a Patreon. We are on Latinx Geeks on all the things. That's Latinx Geeks with the S on the end. And we try to put out content as much as possible. And we have a podcast that we only got one episode out, and we need to put more, aka that Patreon. Please help us. So on all things, like us, share us, and that is huge. Please share as much as possible and like us. That helps a lot.
Yep.
Right. And so tell your unique stories as well. How can you help move this progress, along with supporting everybody else and sharing and actually contributing? Share your stories and tell your stories as well. I know that we have about 5 minutes left in this room. I can take a half a question. Right here. Go ahead.
Since we're plugging things up. So I'm the director of a short called Forward, and it's and I'll give you information about it, but it's about two queer women of color, and they're both Latinx. So I'm the director of a short film called Forward. We released the trailer during ClexaCon. It was crowdfunded, and you guys were talking about call-out posters. We wouldn't be here if we weren't a call-out poster, right? This is ClexaCon, right?
Yes.
Right? So I just wanted to acknowledge that CW, we have problems with CW. The people who have problems with CW because of the 100, because of Supergirl. So I just want to acknowledge that. But I want to thank you all for being here and doing this. And since we're creating content and we were fans last year, this con inspired us to create a short. And it was crowdfunded by a lot of people at ClexaCon and by fans. So what I would say is support queer filmmakers. It's 2018. If it was going to be done by somebody else, it would have been done.
Indeed.
So that's what I'm always saying. Just share, like, if you can financially contribute, do that. Reaching out on Twitter, we reached out to showrunners. Showrunners contributed to our campaign. So stuff that's on the air. Javier, who wrote the episode of 307 for Lexa dying, he contributed to our campaign. I've been talking to him since that happened. So literally, this is the age. Don't be afraid. They can say no, but if you don't ask, yeah. So that's all.
Right.
Thank you for the shameless plug. It's that time. I think we got time. You have a question right there. Go ahead.
Yes. I probably don't have time to kind of say it or to answer incomplete.
Let me give you this microphone because it looks lengthy.
It's not too, well, it's kind of lengthy. I'm not gonna bullshit you. Anyway. But I just wanted to comment because I have a couple because they kind of come to the same things. I feel like we kind of pushed past the comment that Valerie is going to make about our labor, and I think that it's pertinent to bring up because what's underlying in this conversation to me is this notion of work. And I think it's important to have a conversation about how much labor we want to do, because it seems like a lot of the impetus is on Black people or Black queer people, but I'm going to say us in general when we need to fix anything. The impetus is on us to create things when we don't see it, as if the institutional barriers that are put into place that are keeping us from creating things are not inundated by white supremacy, or like we're not already creating things. So that's one. And two, why is the work always on us to humanize and to educate white folks? Because yes, I do believe that maybe you don't know what you don't know, but if Negroes ain't at your events, then you know they're somewhere. So I guess what it comes to for me is telling people to create, not just a Band-Aid, if we're not also telling white people to get their shit together.
Exactly.
Let's be really clear. So you said, why are we the ones that always have to educate? I'm gonna say, why is it always Black women that have to step up and educate? I have to be very clear about that. Alabama and ousting that child molester wouldn't have happened without Black women, because we constantly do the work, and it's exhausting, and you're absolutely right. And I think you absolutely made a great point about us continuously putting in labor. I think it's time for us to pass it along, because I'm tired of doing labor. If you want to reach out to our community, here are the resources I'm happy to talk to, but what I won't do is do it for you.
I have a great job. I have to work. I have to fund this somehow, and I can't spend all day online trying to give you the resources. I'm very busy. I work in IT. That's taxing. So I have to go work and deal with them, which is another issue. And then I gotta go online and deal with that. So I redistribute all that shit, because, you know, it makes me age, and I'm trying to stay young.
All right, in the spirit of respecting the space, we will adjourn, and you all want to ask some questions individually. Some of us are going to hang around, but make some noise for yourselves for coming out. And then make some noise for our amazing panelists. Thank you all so much for coming out, and if you want to follow me on Instagram, it is Kia Comedy. Thank you all, and goodbye.